and who has been working with Van to develop this app. So Ellen and I are involved in many real estate matters, rentals, leases, construction, anything building related. And we just want to invite everyone in both our dioceses to look into this app and how this app can help our churches. And that's it.
So we're all gathered here with the Diocese of New York because we're, as Edward mentioned, members of this real estate centered faith-based organization called Bricks and Mortals that deals with various real estate issues that plague uniquely our organizations. And why that matters and why we're bringing it up is because Venuely grew out of Bricks and Mortals. So that's kind of how we tie in all these organizations, but I'll kind of hand that over to Kate and Van now.
Great, thanks so much for the introduction, and thanks everyone for being here. So just to give everyone a brief overview of today, and hopefully this will go for, our portion will be about 30 minutes, and then we'll give you a good 20-30 minutes for Q&A, and we can end a little before 6 if there are less questions than that. So first we'll give you just a brief overview of what is Bricks and Mortals, which is operating Venuely, which Egbert and Ellen have spoken about a little bit already. Talk a little bit about Venuely and then dive right in and look at the website and then answer all your questions. So here's who we are. Egbert and Ellen have already introduced themselves. I am Kate Toth, the Executive Director of Bricks and Mortals. And Van, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi there, my name is Van Pham. I am working with Venuely as an outreach consultant. Happy to see you all here today.
Great. So Bricks and Mortals is a secular interfaith nonprofit organization based in New York City. And thank you all again for taking the time to, out of your very busy schedules, I'm sure, to be here today. And thank you to both of the dioceses of New York and Long Island for sponsoring this event too. Bricks and Mortals empowers faith-based organizations in New York City to maximize their buildings and their property to serve their communities. So we do this by connecting congregations to experts and resources, including Venuely. We're a grassroots membership organization, and our members are both individuals and organizations from both the faith-based and real estate communities. Aside from Venuely, we hold bi-monthly membership meetings, and every meeting features a case study on what houses of faith can do with their property, and also resources like how to apply for discretionary funding. We also offer events and trainings, and we advise elected officials and the public on faith-based organizations' needs and their contributions to their communities. For instance, since last June, we've been chairing a working group for the mayor on developing housing on faith property. So all of this is guided by what we hear from our members, and that's also why we started Venuely. So what is Venuely? Why did we create it? That is a name for our space sharing website. Hope you love that name. So we launched this space sharing website to make it easier for houses of faith to rent out their spaces to community groups, artists, and others. And Venuely is a really easy to use website for houses of faith to list the spaces within their facility that they would like to rent and allow outside groups to rent those spaces. We started Venuely because a lot of churches were coming to us that were interested in sharing their spaces, but didn't have either a system or staff in place to do so, and also didn't know how to find the users. Meanwhile, on the other side, artists and other groups are really struggling to find affordable space. And they don't know that their local houses of faith actually have a lot of the space available, but aren't sure how to access that option. So the goal of this platform is to be able to help congregations not only survive, but also help them thrive, enhance your mission, and be able to serve your community in whatever way that you want. So this website was designed 100% for houses of faith and your specific needs. This gives you the opportunity to generate income from spaces you're not using. At times you're not using them, or if you already have an active space use program, to use the analytics that we have to understand your users better. And one thing that we want to stress is that you're totally in control with how you book your space, for what purpose, and to whom you're booking your space. That's really at the core. So that's just a brief overview of both what Venuely is and who Bricks and Mortals is, which owns and operates the websites. So at this point, I will hand it over to Van, who is going to dive deeper into actually using the website and some of the really specific features on it. And if you have any questions, just plug them into the chat.
Great. Thanks, Kate, for that overview of the site. And again, I'm Van Pham. I'm working to help with outreach for the site and assisting congregations in onboarding to Venuely, getting their spaces online and ready to share with community members. I'm here with you today to give you an introduction overall and a walkthrough to the Venuely site. So we'll review how a guest might find and book a space first, and then how to navigate the site as Venuely host through registering an account, listing your spaces, to receiving and managing requests and guest communication, and to reviewing analytics about your venue as well. So I'll go in for a little share screen here. All right, so we're starting off. I see a quick question here in the chat. Is this strictly for New York City? The markets that we're in right now are New York City and New Jersey. We'll be expanding to Indiana soon. That is our current service area. So thanks for that. Really good question.
And sorry, Van, I also want to add that it's actually for all of New York State. So if you're in Westchester or upstate, it works there too.
And
correct. Thanks for jumping in.
Yeah, shout out.
Yeah. It started out in New York City, and I think there is a significant need also upstate. So most of our churches are on the Hudson, but similar needs.
Thanks, y'all. Cool. So here we are on the venuely.org homepage. You'll find our mission and impact here, as well as a broad overview of how to use the site as a prospective renter or a host, and get more information about the process. There are FAQs down at the bottom and contact information for our team as well. But from here, as a guest, you can go directly to the top search bar to begin your search process for a space for your community event, meeting, and or other activities. So if you were to click this, you'd end up in the search area for Venuely. In the search bar, community members seeking space will need to enter basic details to generate potential venues. So firstly, the location. I have Brooklyn here. And since someone asked, note that New York, New Jersey are only like main areas of service right now. The additional information they'll need to enter include date and time for the proposed activity. And there are also optional filters for occupancy and price and amenities over here as well. So in this case, let's pretend I'm a choreographer looking for a dance class rehearsal space on June 22nd. I've already entered that here, and the search has pre-populated those into the page here. And on the right, you'll also see a map that gives you a geographic sense of where the venues are. So let's say that this sanctuary multi-purpose room with air conditioning that seats about 250 seems like it's going to meet my needs. So I'll click on that to open up the record. And here I'll see different pictures of the venue itself, as well as additional information about the prospective space, including a more elaborate description about the space, a list of amenities, house rules I should expect to abide by as a guest, hours of the space, insurance policy requirements, COVID health and safety measures. Again, another map that kind of allows me to zero in on where it might be within New York City, and then the cancellation policy as well. And then I'll also see a rental cost summary that's available reflecting the details that I entered for the event. It's from here that a guest can submit a request for review, though they will not be charged until the request is actually approved by the host. Or you can also start a conversation to message the host about a possible rental and get to know more about the space itself before you make a commitment of trying to request a space. So say you want to go ahead and put in the request because everything looks good. You'll end up in another space that allows you to enter more details about your requested activity. So here I would put in rehearsal. Say this is for 45 people, probably not alcohol in this event. I would be adhering to the host rules, their insurance policy, should they require it, and any food and beverage restrictions. And then a message area for me to introduce myself to the host and describe in more detail what the event entails. Now, say as a host, you have a longtime partner or want to extend a discount to a nonprofit or other community entity or individual with whom you might have a particular alignment or affinity. Discount codes can also be issued to guests. Hosts would need to just request those discount codes from Venuely site admins to issue to your guests to use at time of reservation in this booking area under add coupon code. So that way they can have a 10, 20, you name it, percentage discount off of their total price. So then the user would move forward with the booking request, provide payment details, and await the host's decision. So now we'll review what that looks like from the other side as a host. I've got here the Venuely host portal. If you're just starting out as a host, the Venuely homepage is actually the starting point to register and log in. You would click Become a Host in the top right corner of the site. And then from here, you're in the Venuely host area that has more details on the process as a host. If you just want to get started and put in your information, we've got a little Get Started button right there. You'll be prompted to enter an email to establish the account, as well as a few basic personal details and account password to get started. So hosts can register anytime with no obligations. It's free to sign up for Venuely, and there is no limit to the listings that you can post to the site. And they can remain there in perpetuity at no cost to you and your congregation. The only costs are associated are attached to booking transactions that are managed and paid through Stripe. It's our payment partner. Venuely receives 5% of each confirmed reservation, which is paid by the guest, not by the host. So once you start your account, you'll end up in this host portal. And this is the area where you can navigate the menu. So we've got messages, reservation, your space, payment, and your profile here. You can edit your profile, and this is where you would want to put in information to verify your host status with an email, contact information, and your phone number. One of the first steps you'll take as a new host to the site is to create profiles for the various spaces in your venue. And you can manage that through the Your Space area of the platform. Under listings, you'll find options to create more listings for each of the spaces in your house of worship, meaning that hosts will need to create separate listings for each potential area that is available to share with the community. So that's one entry for your sanctuary, one for your meeting hall, one for your office space, and so on. You would click Add a Space, and the platform will walk you through all the necessary details from the type of facility to capacity to contact information. Oops, I'll go back into the demo space here. To a title for the space, a colorful description for your space for the listing, photos, available hours for each space, the different activities that are allowable in each space and the pricing conditions for it, the minimum number of hours for the rental, a discount for any rentals that are over 8 hours, and then cleaning fee that you might include in your cost as a default or an additional flat fee that's passed on to the guest. The next space, you would be selecting the amenities of your space. So if you have Wi-Fi that you're willing to share with a guest, or for a dancer who might be interested in hardwood floors, you'd be able to indicate that here. And that would be searchable within the search function of the site. And then finally, opt-out activities. If there are certain things that you do not want taking place within certain sites or all over your venue, you can indicate that here in the opt-out activities area. Once you've gone through each area of the listing, if you have your host profile verified with contact information, it will then go into being reviewed. Otherwise, you have others that could be listed here as draft. So a listing would be considered available to be reviewed once you have each area filled out within the listings, and then you could submit it for our team to vet and put live on the site. In the basics area, we have just contact information and general information about your venues. That's address, denomination, and Google location verification. And then finally, in policies and rules, these are for more global settings for your venue. So in this section, you can determine needs for insurance policy, booking cancellation policies, house rules, arrival instructions, and COVID policies. You can also use this area to set buffer times, blocked dates for your entire building, or go space by space and determine those limitations for the different areas of your venue. So now we'll also navigate to what the portal would look like in action once you've started to field requests from community members. So first, we'll review the messaging capabilities of Venuely. The messaging area of the portal centralizes all of your booking conversations in one place. From here, you can manage different threads for various requests and guests without the concern of potentially losing track of them in your email inbox. In this interface, hosts can keep track of all conversations according to status. You'll see that on the right here, that this is a pending request as opposed to a confirmed request. You can also filter for confirmed bookings by using the accepted bookings link in the left side menu. And each conversation record will take you to the ongoing thread that you have with each prospective guest. Before you make a commitment to every reservation, you can use this area of the portal to gather more details, review any questions that you may have, and seek out more information that you might need from your potential renter before you agree to the booking. And once the reservation is confirmed, you can continue to use this space to communicate with your guests too for more details about the activity that's taking place. In the reservation area of the portal, it's a record of all of your pending, current, completed, and canceled reservations. Here you'll find pending requests to review. By opening a request record, you'll see the details about the guest and their proposed activity. And you can use the messaging feature from within this pop-up as well to request more details or clarification should you need it about the event before you either deny or accept it. And includes the price summary here as well that will be paid to your congregation. And once you feel confident that the guest's request is a partnership that you'd like to move forward with, you can approve the reservation from this screen. So let's go ahead and do that with this sample. So that's been successfully accepted. If you go back to the dashboard and look at your upcoming events, that now shows up here. And then each reservation can actually integrate with your calendar app of choice that you've been using to manage your rental program. Each record gives you the option to download an ICS file to your calendar app. That'll be available here within the reservation file. And after you approve a reservation, you will also receive an automatic email that includes that ICS file to integrate into your calendar. And finally, in the payments area, you'll find a place to enter your banking info to connect to Stripe to receive payments, as well as analytics related to your bookings. Under revenue in our income panel, you'll be able to see a visual representation of the prospective, pending, and confirmed income over time for your space. And then up here under revenue and transaction history, you'll be able to receive data about your reservations, from the numbers, the type of activity, to the amount that was earned, which could be a great asset to help inform how you navigate decision-making about your rental program going forward. So that is a general overview of the Venuely site. Thanks for letting me walk you through the site's features and how we might support you in your effort to share your spaces. Our team is always available for additional questions as well and assistance, and we offer dedicated onboarding calls to our hosts. And with that, I'm going to encourage you to create your free Venuely account, and I'm going to turn it back to Kate.
Thank you so much. That was super helpful and very efficient. Not to add walking through the site. So I think at this point, happy to answer anyone's questions. Feel free to, raise your hands and we can go through any questions you might have about using the site or getting set up on that or anything like that.
Yeah, I just want to add something to the presentation is that Venuely is trying to fill kind of like that gap or bridge that gap of churches having a lot of spaces, but kind of like hesitant to actively look for a tenant, or kind of like how do we go about it? Some churches tend to use a broker, but a broker might only be like looking for commercial spaces, but you're kind of like a non-profit. And then you have other brokers, of course, who are looking for specialized in residential. And I think we want to give more power to churches by being able to use this app. And it won't replace a broker, but it will help you trying to promote spaces more in the public.
I can see this being over time as we add listings to this space. I can see this being a very useful kind of resource for film productions and location managers who are looking for space, and they might come off the app to reach out to you about seeing the space and things like that. But this kind of opens the door to a lot of those access points. I know that some of our congregations are big recipients of kind of that type of space engagement. And I've spoken to location scouts, and they report wanting to access church spaces for filming, for other tertiary uses. And I think this kind of opens the door. So with that, I would also encourage folks who have parking lots to put those on. All the spaces that you might not think might be useful, I think it's worthwhile to kind of just throw it on the site and see what the kind of reception is.
And one frequent question that we get is how to price your different spaces. And there is guidance on the site now that will be beefed up in the next few months about that exact question. So you can look to that because I think that's one of the strengths of having Bricks and Mortals operate this, is that we can offer that kind of technical assistance as well and develop that tool for use as you are as you're having these questions, as you develop those kind of listings. So just looking through the questions, and then we'll go right to Joan, who I see has her hand up. Van, do you want to quickly answer Ed's question about pricing that's in the chat?
Sure. In the chat, I see a question from Ed that says, is it possible to list multiple prices for each space, for instance, nonprofit rate versus film production, or say contact space for more info, etc.? Thanks, Ed. Yes, it is. It's currently set up so that there are 3 categories of different types of activities in the platform. So we're looking at more public-facing events, to more rehearsals, meetings, classes, and then media production. You can set different price points for each of those 3 categories for each space within the Venuely platform. If you would like to, if say you have a partner or you want to extend a nonprofit discount, that's going to be handled through the coupon codes, the discount codes that could be created for your venue. So you can negotiate that with our administration, and we will issue you a code to give to your partners that you're working with. We'll also be adding some extra language to the site around there for potential guests to just start that conversation with you before they actually make the request, because at that point, the coupon code does have to be applied at the time of request. So having that conversation in advance where you're able to share that coupon code with them to use, that would be the first step. So yes, is the large answer for that. I see another question from Camila really quickly, and I was just wanted to seek a little bit of clarification. Can we see a listing for the financial report of pendings? Camila, could you clarify a bit on that, please?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. So one of the last few slides that you showed was like a graph line of the income.
Yes.
So my question is there a version of that same graph for pending income?
Yes, there is. So the four categories, maybe I went a little bit too quickly on that, is the income that is paid out, the income that is expected or pending, income that was refunded for whatever reason, and then chargebacks that say one potential use case for a chargeback would be just like we were talking about with that that pricing that you might want to extend a discount on. Say someone wants to hold a meeting at your space, you end up approving it, but then after a couple of rounds of conversations, you decide, oh, it'd be really great to extend a discount to them. At the time of approval, the charge would have gone through. So you want to issue a chargeback to that guest and then have them rebook it again. So that would still be reflected there within your financial reports across all those categories. Does that answer your question?
And can it be in different colors? Is it in different colors?
It is in different colors.
Well, just being thorough here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for answering all those questions, Van. Joan?
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. It sounds very interesting. I just want to ask, you think there was something said about when payments are made, they go through something called Stripe? I could have just misheard that. I don't know what that is. So that's my first question. And my second one is I just want to confirm that there's like no cost to the church at all. It's just a free account, and the payment is the revenue that is goes to Venuli would come from the booking, the person that's booking. There's a fee for that or a charge, correct?
Yeah, I can answer this first, and Van, you can jump in if I miss anything. So on Stripe, it's like Apple Pay or anything else you use like that. It's just an online vendor. So that's just the system that we use, and that we also don't keep any, for the platform security, we don't keep any credit card information on the platform. It's all stored externally. So that's, and many businesses use that. It's one of the most common platforms. And then the platform is free. There's no charges whatsoever at any point for houses of faith who list their spaces. And this is related also to Phyllis's question in the chat too. The only charge that's on the space that comes back to us, that doesn't go to you, is a 5% fee, basic administration fee that is issued on the total booking cost when renters, which call space users, not renters, check out at the end. And that's much lower than the industry average. And that supports things like Van's time, helping to onboard people, helping to pay for the cost of folks maintaining the websites, and the many other things that go into maintaining the websites, and having it expand to all the other folks who want to get it out to. But everything else goes directly to the congregation. And there is, the only other fee there is insurance, which also goes to an outside vendor. Aside from that, 100% of the fee goes to the congregation. So I hope that answered both of your questions, but let me know if I forgot anything. So I see a question from Catherine that says, how is this advertised? Do you mean how have we advertised it so far in the world, or to host? Catherine, do you want to clarify, or otherwise I can just expound what I think we probably mean.
Here I am. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so how is this get out to different people who are looking for spaces? Is it done through local media things? Does it go out to churches? Or is it, is it public and private, or, what type of advertising?
Yeah. All right. So thanks for your question. That makes a lot of sense. Right now, we're still in the phase where we're trying to get enough. We haven't been advertising to the users yet, because we're really trying to get enough properties on the site. So that when a user comes on, they can get many properties when they search for any time in any location so that they come back. So right now we're trying to populate the site with as many churches and other houses of faith as possible within New York City specifically. And then at that point, we're going to start marketing to other outside groups. And we have a very long list of groups that we're planning to share it with, including artist groups and others who we know are in desperate need of spaces. We have strong relationships with many folks that we're just waiting to send the email to, and when we have enough spaces on the site. So we will be in for somewhere like New York, we will be helping to build the rental market on the site, and getting people to be able to use the site and know that the website exists, and that's a really great resource. And we have a very long list of folks that are interested in doing that with us on the user side. But right now, we're still in this phase where we're trying to make sure that Houses of Faith know about it. And they could definitely, you can have your folks use it immediately if you know people that want to start using it. But in terms of getting outside users and new folks, we haven't started actively doing that process yet, because we want to make sure that if they're on there for the first time, they have a good experience and they come back.
Yeah, I think that's sort of the benefit of Bricks and Mortals. They have a very large network, but also we're trying to, in a way, the church world is big and the church world is small, and this has the potential to be advertised at many different conventions where mission-driven real estate is being advertised or being sought after. So that I think I wouldn't be sort of too worried about. And there's also ways where it happens, like word of mouth. When we have a large enough base to it is already live, but to advertise it significantly, indeed, that if people go on the site, they don't see just one or two churches, they see multiple, that it gets more known. And I think that's kind of like how it works when I work with indeed, like Netflix looking for a space. It's kind of like word of mouth, and I think this app would significantly help, where I can say to my Netflix guy, look up on the website, there's multiple churches, you see what's best for you, and reach out to the church directly. And all the pictures are there that are able to be leased with the square footage, so the church can immediately plug in that information.
So Van, do you want to tackle this question about if there are any vetting and approval protocols for renters?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for the question, Cecilia. It's an interesting concept. So the vetting approval protocols for renters, similar to the line for hosts, obviously they do not have an asset of a space to be vetted, but their contact information, we need to vet their email and their phone number. Other than that, the conversation, the communication space on the platform for messaging is really the space where a host can get to know a guest before approving a proposed event. So that way you can understand whether or not their activity is going to be in alignment with your mission, your values for the space. So really what I'd like to drive home in this presentation is that hosts are really at the core of this platform, and you're really at the lead of whatever is happening within your space. You have total control to say no or yes to any prospective guest. That's completely up to you, and that's any reason that you'd like. That is not, a bad one. And I think from there, as far as an obvious comp for this sort of platform is like an Airbnb. The idea of potentially having additional vetting or kind of reviews around guests in the future might be another phase. So I'll take a note for that for the developers.
Yeah, but besides, it doesn't replace the system that should already be in place for many churches, which is when you have a lease, short-term or long-term rental, you always need to have it. You all need to have it vetted in a contract, preferably by an attorney. And you also have, for certain short-term rentals, like for parking lots, you can have like a basic rental agreement that you have, and of course the insurance needs to be in order. And that are the two basic aspects of it, and that's outside of Venuely, that needs to be provided regardless. We are looking into providing guidelines on Venuely as well. On that, correct, Kate?
Yeah, there are guidelines on how it impacts your 501c3 status, which it doesn't, and how like all the questions that Egbert is talking about. And really, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us. And just one other note that I wanted to mention is that, like I said, we're not at the very beginning of this process, but as you can tell, we're just starting to, we're still in the process of adding hosts right now. So we really want to get all the feedback that we can. So like had Van said, that she's going to take a note. If there are things as you use the site or in onboarding that you think would be helpful for us to have, we're really eager to take those up. We've really just launched this a few months ago. And the whole goal of this is very mission oriented, and it's a site just for you. So as you come to us with feedback, we're not going to know what works and what doesn't work and what could be a little bit better until we hear it. So we will be making those tweaks the whole process. So feel free to be in touch as you have an experience, that something could be better, or you need some more information on something, and then we'll get enough of those questions that we added to the FAQ or create a resource about it.
Actually, there's another Ed McKinney mentioned if spaces are already booked or booked outside of Venuely, is it possible to enter that information into the system, dates, prices, etc., so that Venuely holds all of our rental information and prospective guests know what's available and what's not? That's actually a very good question, because I was thinking of that while you're making a presentation.
Yeah, so in the general area of the settings, you are able to not only put in buffer times for booking, so that would create sort of a little bit of space on either side of the booking that's blocked out, that cannot be booked, so you have time to turn over a space or anything like that. Directly below that option, there is a block option that you can have for each individual space or globally for your entire venue, to say, on March 5th, we are not accepting any rentals for these hours or all day. So you can use that for existing rental partnerships that you already have. Otherwise, you would be directing new rental suggestions into the, sorry, I'm just looking at the poll this popped up. So you'd be adding new rental suggestions through the website itself. You direct your partners there.
Yeah, and I would just, so I'll answer Sully's question too, but I'm gonna just add one more point to Cecilia's about vetting renters. Like everyone said, we don't specifically vet individual renters, but there are procedures in place that you put in place that provide broader guidance, like the house rules broadly set the terms about what kind of activities you allow in your spaces overall and in a specific space. And then if you require event insurance, which we strongly suggest, then it also provides, that literal and figurative insurance for their time in your space. So there are buffers around their activities. And by learning more about what kind of activity they have when they apply for to use your space, you can have a better understanding of what exactly they'll be using the space for. So rather than just having it automatically be approved, you should have a pretty good understanding of what's going on in your space. And if you want to reiterate any of the rules or constraints on the space, then you can do so at that time or before they come in. And then in terms of, do we make site visits or assist with profiles? Van is the person that will help you assist with profiles. I'm very happy to have you do it. I just launched the distracting poll that's on your screen so that we can just capture your email addresses so we know who to be in touch with, basically, that wants Van to contact them. And if you don't click on that, or if you want to contact us separately, you can email us at the hello@venuli.org email address, and with any questions or to set up an appointment we can help you set up your original listing or throughout the process if you ever have any kind of question. And Van, how long would you say the onboarding process is?
Yeah, so that depends. I generally would set out like at least an hour for an onboarding call with a new host. So that way we can actually walk through the entire profile, start the kind of skeletal build out of your space listings, and I can help answer any questions that you might have around building that profile. Depending on how many spaces you might be listing for your venue, I've put on some that have 2 and some that have over 10. So based on that, you're kind of wanting to chart out at least an hour, maybe a couple of hours, to ensure that you've got a really nice looking listing. You've got photos that are very representative of your space before you can push that forward to our admins to review, vet, approve, so that it goes live and you can start getting folks renting your venue. I did want to follow up. Ed did a follow-up question about no option for hard entering past information to keep all of your current bookings in Venuli. So that is correct. So you can do blackout dates right now with your current reservations. There is not yet a way to input information so that you're managing from conversations to seeing it on the calendar under the current reservations in Venuli. We have a very flexible, responsive development team. I will pitch that to them. So hopefully we can get that going very soon.
And in terms of a rating score for renters, this is something we had this. So we looked at this as phase 1 of our development. And so one of the things we're looking at for phase 2 is ratings, like you mentioned, for Airbnb. We hadn't looked at it for the renters, but more for the hosts, so that folks can see which is a really great space. But that's something that we can look at. Yeah, I mean, but if there is a huge concern, we can always flag it. We can flag that profile. I think that's the benefit of having it be not Airbnb, is that you can really give us your feedback as it happens.
Yeah, I think it would also be, but that's just in general. If a church is trying to promote renting out their spaces, it's also to take a look. And sadly, both Ellen and I do not have the capacity to individually walk around in each of the spaces, but to see if you need to make any improvements, that, for example, like repainting the spaces to already make it look better, kitchen improvements, accessibility. So I just did a project where we install modest ADA ramp so that the space can now be leased to people with who have mobility problems, that kind of stuff. It's sometimes small things that can improve a space significantly. What we've also started trying to provide, Kate, I don't know if this will also be in the guidelines of how much money to ask. I think we discussed that a while back, but I can't remember if that will also be included in the guidelines.
Which point would be included in those guidelines?
The last one is if we have guidelines on pricing.
Oh yeah. So we have a whole document on how to price your different spaces, and we'll be coming out with a even better model in a few months. We're working with a group of NYU students now who are working on. Right now we have general guidance, and they're actually giving us 3 different equations that you can use in varying degrees of complexity and specificity that folks will be able to use.
I have a
I think-
question. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, just to add on to the pricing question, I think just the added benefit of kind of this type of product is that we can be responsive to pricing feedback. So if you end up getting a lot of reservations because you're finding that you're in a very desirable area with a huge shortage of space, you can start to kind of respond to that by increasing your prices. And that's something that the app allows for. So you're really not committing hard and fast in perpetuity for that space. So that's kind of a huge benefit to this application. I'm sorry to cut you off, Shane.
Oh, no worries. We have several existing like 12-step groups that use our space. They pay by check. They have regular hours that they have booked. I like the idea of putting all of our potential renters onto this system, but I'm worried that that might not work for them. Like just the transaction part. I think the booking part makes sense, but if they don't have a credit card that for their organization, is there a way to approve or have a transaction that's completed offline? I know there's issues there with the 5% obviously is not automatically deducted. Is there a model for that in the system?
I don't know, Dan, is this something that you've come across yet?
No, it's a great question, actually. And I understand that not necessarily all guests or, potential clients in that range would be tech savvy or wanting to go the route of paying electronically. So it's a good feature ask for the development team. I think my only question that we would have to kind of sync up about as a team is whether or not then there's that 5% consideration if technically Venuely is not the avenue through which you're doing that booking. Even though you're managing it within the site.
Yeah.
Maybe the bypass is there's a calendar function where you can manually put in those windows, so that I think that's kind of the ask where you want to be able to like log in and see, okay, well, this is my week of space use and onboarding the entire space use setup onto Venuely, even if not everything is processed through Venuely.
Yeah, no, it sounds like that is definitely a need. From this conversation, it definitely sounds like something we need to build in sooner rather than later. And I know folks who have active space use programs and are trying to accommodate folks that are already renting are trying to figure out the best way to use Venuely because they're really interested in it. And I think that will be helpful for everyone to be able to have.
And the workaround makes sense, and appreciate the thought about that use case in the future. And love the name, by the way, both Bricks and Mortals and Venuli.
Thank you. So we only have 4 minutes left. Are there any final questions as we're wrapping up?
Kate, one question. Will you organize an event in the future to talk about Bricks and Mortals and the benefits of that? Sorry to plug in that.
I would love to. Yeah, I will, hopefully be coming back in September to talk with both dioceses about Bricks and Mortals and the resources that it can bring to your churches and how helpful it can be to all of you all, aside from Venuli. So yeah, really looking forward to that and connecting with everybody today. And sorry, I see a
Yeah, I
note
see another
from
good question.
a note from Camilo. Advertising in other languages, a really great point. We haven't done that just because like I said, we're at kind of the starting point of our voyage, but something that I am very aware of. So I thank you for the prod in that direction. I think when it comes to users, we'll definitely want to do that. I think in terms of actually adding your Spaces site, you should be able to do the really terrible Google Translate.
Is it possible to set up, and that's maybe a bit cumbersome for the time being, but as a church to set up 2 accounts and 2 different languages? It's maybe a little bit more cumbersome than because otherwise it's all free. The description, everything you can put in manually. So maybe you can also put it in one account and put 2 languages, 2 blocks of languages. So you can do that, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine the easiest way to do it so that things don't get confused in your own calendar is to just list everything in both languages on the same profile.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, well, with that, I will put the email address again in the chat. If you want to connect with us and haven't clicked on our little poll, you have a last minute to click on it. And Fan will be in touch with you really soon. And thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to be here. We really appreciate all of your time and all of your interest. Please feel free to reach out if you want to sign up, or if you are thinking about signing up and you have any questions. And like I said, we're really eager to improve the sites. So if you have any feedback, please pass it on so we can continue to make it better and more helpful for you all who this is really designed for.
Yeah. Thank you, Van and Kate, for everything.
And thank you, Egbert and Ellen.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for making the
Thank you.
time this evening.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much, everyone. Take care.